Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Owen Zajac. We have a great show for you today. We are very excited to be back here and preview this week's NFL Divisional Round playoff matchups. Appreciate everyone tapping in here on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below your predictions for this week's divisional slate. With that being said, what an amazing start to the playoffs with the wild card weekend. But in this episode, we are going to break down each divisional matchup, talk about the key storylines, and predict who punches a ticket to their championship games. Let's start with the first game of the weekend. The bye week teams are finally entering the picture, and they're nice and rested and relaxed, and they got their fresh legs, and they're ready to meet teams that just survived a battle, some of them a war. We'll start with one of those teams, the Denver Broncos, who are hosting Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. You look at the spread on this game, the Broncos are now favored by 1.5 points, so very tight. Actually, the tightest of all the games this weekend. But when the lines initially came out, the Bills were actually favored. So Vegas, the odds makers, they're expecting this game to be very close, and I think all of us are kind of expecting it. I've seen a lot of people that are predicting the Bills to win this game over the Broncos, but we'll dive into this. It's January. It's in Denver. You'd expect this to be very cold, but it's actually going to be 41 and sunny, surprisingly. So the elements are not going to come into play here, but the altitude always does there. A lot of athletes struggle with the oxygen, but we'll see. Don't know when the Bills actually arrived in Denver, but I'm sure that they're taking every precaution as they try to finally reach the Super Bowl with Josh Allen. On the other side, the Broncos, they've been home relaxing. They're coming off of a bye, and they really looked pretty decent in those last few weeks, but they played against a Chargers team that sat all of their starters in Week 18, so they really haven't played a real game, I say real in quotes, in about 3 weeks. So I wonder if they come off into this game with a little bit of rust. We'll see how they start. I think that's going to be key to this game. The Bills, on the other side, they've won 6 of their last 7 games. And against current playoff teams this year, the Bills were 4-3, improving that record against their win versus Jacksonville. The Broncos against playoff teams this season were 3-2 if you don't include that Week 18 win against the Chargers, who again rested all their starters. But you look at this matchup, I think James Cook is someone that is really impactful. So last week, the Bills played the Jaguars, who had the #1 rush defense in the league, and we knew that Josh Allen was probably going to need to take over that game. This game is going to be a little bit different. James Cook is going to have more on his plate. He's going to be expected to do more things this week. James Cook this season had over 1,900 total yards and 14 touchdowns in just 16 games. James Cook going to be essential to winning this game. You look at the Broncos rush defense, they're 16th in the NFL. They allow 116 yards per game. So a mediocre rush defense. Expect James Cook to give them all they can got. We'll see how the offensive line handles, but a very strong D line. But when it comes to the linebackers and how that is, just overall as a rush defense, you would expect the Broncos to be better in this aspect, but they're middle of the pack. And when it comes to playoffs, that usually doesn't fare well. However, the Bills rush defense, even worse than that, 28th in the NFL, are allowing 136 rush yards per game. So we'll see if the Broncos really trying to pound the rock on the team. We know the Jaguars did that, had some success, but we saw that the Bills defense kind of sold out a lot to stop the run and forced Trevor Lawrence to beat them with his arm, which first play in the final drive in the 2-minute drill bounces off, picked off. We didn't really get to see a whole lot of their defense in high pressure scenarios, at least with like a 2-minute drill going on. But on the pass defense, the Bills have the best pass defense in the NFL, only allow 157 pass yards per game. So Bo Nix is going to have his plate full trying to pass the ball. On the other side, Broncos pass defense, 11th in the NFL, 224 pass yards per game. So above average in that aspect, but you're going against Josh Allen, maybe not the best sort of receivers in sort of that room, but Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir, Josh Allen with his legs. There's going to be a lot to handle, and this is probably going to be one of the best offenses that they'll play the entire season. But you look at this matchup, Jake, you see both sides of the ball that the matchups are kind of peculiar in this aspect. But you look at Josh Allen, the Bills overall, the pressure that's on them, not having Mahomes, not having Lamar Jackson in the playoffs for once, the kryptonite is not there. Would you say that Josh Allen winning a Super Bowl this season, that there's more pressure for him to do that? Or is there more pressure for Bo Nix to finally win a playoff game and prove that he's not a fraud?
Yeah, so I think the Bills' window is actually kind of slowly closing here. I don't know if that's too controversial to say, but Josh Allen's been on the team for a while. He's done a lot for the team. The Bills have had a lot of playoff opportunities, a lot of games against Lamar, a lot of games against Mahomes. Josh Allen's really struggled in those games and has yet to prove himself. I think if they don't go to the bowl in the next couple of years, Josh Allen is going to continue to go on a downhill slope. I think the Bills have a lot of potential for this game, though. I think it is really important to stop this Broncos team. This team's coming off a bye. They're fired up. They're healthy. But are we like completely sure if they're healthy or if they're rusty for not playing for a couple weeks? Broncos they ride with their quarterback Bo Nix. Doesn't matter how he's performing. That team always rides with their quarterback. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure on both Josh Allen and Bo Nix. I think this is going to be a big battle for both of them to prove who's really going to be that guy. And I think this game will kind of determine that. Two defenses that, like you said, have been kind of lackluster in the run, but Bills with an amazing pass defense is going to give Bo Nix a really hard time. I think the key for the Broncos, again, is shutting down the run. So I think that this game relies more on the Broncos defense than it does Bo Nix.
Yeah, when I look at this matchup, I think on the Bills side, the Bills' key to victory is Josh Allen is going to have to carry this team once again. I think they're going to try to sell out, and I think their defensive line and front seven is so good that they're not going to completely stop James Cook. He's still going to have probably close to 100 yards, but that's not going to be enough. Josh Allen is going to probably have to have over 250 passing yards, and he's going to need to beat them with their legs, whether it's a RPO, whether it's designed runs in the red zone, those fourth downs and threes where you could, run, you could pass, you could do a scramble drill and just extend those plays. I think Josh Allen, just like he did last week, he's going to have to carry the Bills once again to a win. And for the Broncos, their key to victory is somehow stopping that. Like I know they can stop James Cook and somewhat limit him. Obviously, those big plays are going to happen. That's kind of what the Bills live on is big plays, third downs, making sure they just do enough to move the chains and really hold the ball on the offensive side and keep that time of possession. But also when you look at the turnover battle, we're looking at the best pass defense in the NFL on the Bills side. If Bo Nix cannot turn the ball over, limit those turnovers, I'm not saying Josh Allen's going to have turnovers, but Bo Nix is going to have to play safe with the ball. And the run game for the Broncos is going to need to be efficient. It doesn't need to be elite. It just needs to be efficient. RJ Harvey, their number one running back, he does a lot more in the pass game in terms of impact on the game than he does in the run game. He's had a really good rookie season, but this is the playoffs. This is a different level. And the way that they run the ball, I don't think that it's going to be enough. So I'm going to take the Bills in this matchup, giving the Bills 24-20. I take Josh Allen. I think it's a quarterback. It's the playoffs. I'm taking the better quarterback, and that's Josh Allen in this matchup. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, I got the Bills winning this one too. I'm not gonna lie, man. We'll go 28-26 for the final score of this game. I think that Bo Nix is going to struggle against that pass defense. They call him Bo Picks for a reason. I think he might have a bit of a problem with the turnovers. Hopefully he can limit them and prove me wrong this game. But I just don't see that happening. I think James Cook is going to get really active against that weak Broncos defense. I think it'll be a very entertaining game. It'll be close, but I think the Bills are going to take it.
Staying in the AFC, let's move on to the next matchup on the slate, and that is the Houston Texans heading to New England to face the New England Patriots. So this game, again, is going to be in Foxborough, Massachusetts. The Texans heading on the road once again. The Patriots playing at home once again. New England this stat's crazy. They've won 14 of their last 15 games, and the Texans have won 10 straight. So these are teams that have just been winning and winning and winning. We're talking about between those two teams on their win streaks, 24 of the last 25 games those teams have played in, they've won. So these are both teams that play excellent defense, and they play really smart and efficient football. These are two coaches that are defensive minded. They really have a good culture. They have a strong quarterback. I know CJ Stroud hasn't played his best football, but two very good leaders, two very good cultures, two really good defenses. In a way, they are very similar, except the Patriots offense has really been a lot better than the Texans have been. So we look at this, weather not going to be an impact here, just like the last Patriots game, 35 degrees at kickoff. We look at these teams against other playoff teams. The Patriots now 3-2, the Texans 5-4. So the Texans have a little bit more experience playing better teams this year. But the main thing is the defense. So Patriots pass defense is 9th in the NFL. The Texans is 6th. Patriots run defense, 6th in the NFL. The Texans 4th. In terms of total defense, the Texans are the best in the NFL. Number 1 defense. Patriots are 8th. So these are two teams that are very good on defense. They get pressure when needed. Patriots D-line is not great, but they found a way. This past weekend against the Chargers, they had 6 sacks and 2 forced fumbles on Herbert. And very similar, the Texans against the Steelers, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles on Aaron Rodgers. But the Texans also had 2 defensive touchdowns. Their Texans defense scored as many points basically as their offense did. So we look at this matchup, two teams that pride themselves on the defense, but the Patriots offense is just a little bit better. However, they really struggled in the first half. Drake May had 2 turnovers in the first half, no touchdowns. It was really looked like kind of how he did early in the season. If you look at the Steelers game, week 3, the Patriots, he had a few turnovers in that game. The Patriots had 5 total turnovers. And that's kind of how they looked in that first half. It was really rough. They went into halftime with a slight lead over the Chargers, but really turned it on the second half. Drake May, 14 of 17, touchdown, no turnovers. So two different sides of their offense. You had the one where it's kind of the old Drake, rookie Drake, young quarterback, get exposed a little bit against a good Chargers defense. Second half, he looked composed like that MVP, was making all the smart and correct checkdowns, had that deep ball to Hunter Henry for the touchdown, and just looked a lot more efficient. But this is a Texans defense that just completely changes the game. They wreck the game. They flip it over its side. And they really just kind of have their way with you. I mean, the Texans D-line has 2 monsters. They got Will Anderson, and then they got Danielle Hunter. Will Campbell, Patriots left tackle, really struggled in this past matchup. He had, I think, 3 sacks allowed, and they really just did not look good. Khalil Mack was dominating the offensive line. So it's not a great matchup for the Patriots. For the Texans, their offense, probably not a great matchup for them at all. If I had to predict, this is probably going to be a low-scoring game. We're talking about both teams probably not eclipsing 20 points. You look at the Texans on offense, Nico Collins in concussion protocol. Who knows if he's going to play? But if Nico Collins isn't playing, there are no excuses for the Patriots to lose this game. Their defense got all the pressure on Herbert, and this is a very similar matchup to the Chargers. The Texans do not have a great offensive line. It is a little bit better than the Chargers, but not great overall. There's no Nico Collins. There's no one else. They don't have a star running back, and they don't have any other star key players outside of Nico Collins. If Nico Collins isn't playing, no excuses for this team. I don't care how bad their offensive line gets killed. As long as Nico Collins isn't playing, if Drake May is alive, if he has a pulse out there, no reason for them to lose this game, okay? This is a testament to their coaching, testament to Josh McDaniels, Mike Vrabel. But if Nico Collins is out, and I think it's likely with the way that he was walking off the field, just a concussion, but there's no excuses for the Patriots. They're the better team. Their offense is significantly better, and all they have to do is get the ball out of Drake's hands quick, run the ball, and that's all they have to do to win this game because the offense without Nico Collins is lackluster. I mean, Davis Mills might be better. I mean, he might have to go line up a wide receiver for this game. But for the keys to victory, I think the Texans' key to victory, their offense needs to score in the red zone. So the Patriots, on one side, they allow the least amount of red zone possessions to other offenses. So teams get in the red zone against the Patriots defense less than any other team in the NFL. However, when teams are in the red zone against the Patriots, they are the number 1 scoring offense in the red zone, any team against the Patriots. So the Patriots allow the least amount of teams to enter the red zone, but when you enter the end zone against them, you're number 1 at scoring. On the Patriots side of the ball, I think their key to victory is running the ball. If they can run the ball efficiently against the defense, they can avoid Drake taking those big hits. If they can just run the ball and get about 4 yards per carry or more, it'll open up their play action, and we've seen Drake on the play action. The tight end usage, the crossing routes, Stephon Diggs. Play action is the key for this team, and they have to do that by establishing the run. It also just helps with how bad their pass protection is. So that's the Patriots' key to victory. From the AFC, let's head on over to the NFC. We'll start in Chicago. It's going to be a chilly matchup in Chicago. 16 degrees at kickoff. Going to feel like 3 degrees. So almost 0 degrees. Wind is going to be up to 24-mile-per-hour gusts. It's going to be chilly, probably the coldest matchup of this weekend, bar none. We look at the defenses, though, because you hear wind, freezing cold. Usually that kind of stalls, freezes off the offense a little bit. But these are two teams that are offense by a mile. The Bears rushing defense, 27th in the NFL. The Rams rushing defense, 12th in the NFL. So Bears is horrible. We're talking about a bottom 7 unit in the NFL. Rams rush defense just slightly above average. On the pass defense, the Bears are 22nd in the NFL, but the Rams are 19th. So, and we're talking about two quarterbacks that are probably top 10, maybe top 5. We'll get into that in a second. So we're talking about two teams. This is probably going to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. This is going to be a shootout, but it's going to be freezing cold. So we'll see how that impacts the game. But these are two quarterbacks that like to air that thing out. We look at the matchups. The Bears against playoff teams, 4-2. The Rams, 5-4. Both teams have played very good competition just within their division alone. Probably the two best divisions in football. But looking at last week, I mean, no one thought the Bears were going to come back. I was watching it with a bunch of Chicago fans. I thought, wow, this looks like, the last 20 years, last 30 years, maybe even, Green Bay owned Chicago. And then it just flipped a switch. I mean, it was 21-3 at halftime. The Bears offense looked dead in the water. And in the second half, Caleb just takes over. He looks like Superman. He's got the entire city of Chicago on his back. I don't know what to say. I mean, that was one of the most unbelievable comebacks, one of the most unbelievable second half quarterback performances. Just the clutch factor has been unreal. Going into the game, Caleb had 6 game-winning drives to tie or win the game in under 2 minutes. I think that was the most in an NFL regular season ever. And then he does it against the rivals. He was coming back the entire time. I mean, it was unbelievable. So when you look at that performance, Jake, I mean, unbelievable performance by Caleb Williams. You look at how they're playing right now. Would you say that Caleb Williams is a top 5 quarterback right now?
Right now, absolutely. I think that this is the year for the Bears, and more importantly, I think this is a year for Caleb Williams. As you said, like the score for that last game was 21-3 at halftime. I missed the first half of that game, unfortunately, tuned in for the second half. I saw the score was 21-3, and I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. Caleb Williams is winning this game, and that's exactly what he did. I've seen it time and time again. It's been 5 weeks in a row where Caleb has put that entire city on his back and carried them to victory. He has dragged that team single-handedly to victory. I think they're the best team in the AFC, and I think the Rams are going to struggle against them a lot. Chicago's a little bit more familiar with those colder temperatures. Matthew Stafford has a lot of time over there, but I don't think the rest of that Rams team is going to be able to hold up against that Bears team.
For the Bears' key to victory, I'm going to say Caleb is going to need to outduel Stafford with his arm. And on the other side, for the Rams, same thing. Stafford's going to need to outduel Caleb with his arm. I think this is a matchup of quarterbacks, and I know that Stafford might be the MVP this year. He looked pretty solid in that second half last week, but so did Caleb. So I think whatever quarterback throws for more passing yards is going to win the game. So the key to victory is just quarterback battle. And I think that's why people love the playoffs. It's usually the best quarterbacks, and whoever wins this quarterback duel, I think, will win the game. But from one NFC matchup to another, we head to the best home field advantage in possibly the entire league. I'm talking about Seattle and the 12th man. These are two teams that are very familiar with each other, but coming into this game very differently. The San Francisco 49ers are limping into this game with the little weapons they have left. On the other side, the Seahawks, they're relaxing. They're coming into this game fully rested after dominating the 49ers just 2 weeks ago. On the injury report, the 49ers, no Bethune, no Fred Warner likely. He was activated, probably isn't going to play. And George Kittle went down with an Achilles injury. He's out. However, Ricky Persil, wide receiver, he is likely to play. So they lose Kittle. They get Persil back. Still are decimated on the defensive side of the ball. Look at the 49ers. Before that, honestly, devastating loss versus the Seahawks in Week 18, they had won 6 straight. They're coming off of a hard-fought, absolutely coaching brilliance in their win against Philadelphia last week. But we look back. I think the Week 18 matchup, that's all we need to look at. I don't care about their earlier season game. We're talking about Week 18, Sunday Night Football, all the stakes. It's going to be similar to that. So I look at Week 18. I think it's a slight showcase of what we are likely to see this week. In that game against Seattle Week 18, Brock Purdy, 127 yards and a pick. Not a great performance at all. Probably his worst performance of the year. Christian McCaffrey, however, I think this is unbelievable. And I think this was why they lost this game in the way that they did. We're talking about McCaffrey, who carries the team, all-purpose yards. He had 8 rushes for 23 yards, less than 3 yards per carry. Seattle found the answer to stop McCaffrey. I don't think I've ever seen a team in the 7 or 8 years that McCaffrey's been in the league. I've never seen a worse performance. And I'm not saying it's all McCaffrey's fault, but Seattle had the answers to the test. We look at the 49ers against playoff teams. They're 5-4. We talk about how important that is, against good competition. They played pretty well when you look at them last week. I think they're up to the test. But going back to that game against Seattle, week 18, they were 2 of 9 on third down. They could not run the ball with McCaffrey. They could not get the key third down conversions. And the result of that is their offense only scored 3 points. The Seahawks rush defense is 3rd in the NFL. They're only allowing 92 yards per game. They were able to stop McCaffrey. We'll see if it happens again. On the other side, the 49ers rushing defense, it's 11th in the league. Pretty solid. 108 yards per game. We'll see if that changes with Fred Warner and his presence at linebacker. Probably is going to be a little bit worse than 11th if I had to guess on how they do it. We'll see if the duo with Seattle, if their running back duos can get anything going. And we'll see if Zach Charbonnet likes to steal more touchdowns from K9. On the passing side of the ball, though, looking at Sam Darnold versus the 49ers passing defense. The 49ers passing defense is 25th in the league, 234 yards per game. Sam Darnold's going to need to air this ball out against them. For Brock Purdy, Seahawks passing defense, 10th in the NFL, only 194 yards per game. Purdy is probably going to need to have way more than that if they're going to have a chance of winning this game. You look at this might be the game of the week. We'll see how much coaching infects this game. Last week, 49ers had the best coaching masterclass of any team, bar none. You look at this game, Jake, you said this is the game of the week. Why is this the game of the week?
I mean, you've got Kyle Shanahan, you've got an experienced coach taking in a pretty experienced team and a smart quarterback up against Mike McDonald and his young group of football players. And it's just, I think this will be the best coaching matchup of the season. If you look back at the other 49ers Seahawks matchups this year, they're pretty close games. Say what you will about the Seahawks' most recent win. I think that was a great defensive game. I think we played great. But at 10 points, that's 2 good drives out of Brock Purdy. Anything is possible. The first game we played came down to 1 play. Nick Bosa made it. He got Sam Darnold with the strip sack, and it was game over. I think this will be a similar game. I think that this will come down to a 1-score game for sure. Somehow the Seahawks are favored by 7 points now? 7-point favorites. I think this is going to come down to a point or two. I think this game is going to be really close. I think it's going to be back and forth. And I mean, like you said, there's a lot of keys to victory. The Seahawks need to run the ball. They need to continue to run the ball. That duo with Charbonnet and K9 has been lethal all season, and we need to keep it going. I think it's really important for them to get those yards and also take the pressure off of Sam Darnold. I think Darnold's performance is going to kind of dictate the flow of this game. However he performs, the amount of pressure that we put him under, not saying that he can't perform under pressure, but if we look at his history, he struggled when he's expected to carry the team. He is a pivotal part of this team, but I don't think that he has the exact same clutch capabilities as some other quarterbacks in the league. Overall, I think the Seahawks are a great team. I think their defense is going to show up. We've had an extra week of rest. I think this team is ready, but I think this is going to be a very close game, and I would definitely not count the Niners out of anything, especially in a divisional matchup.
For the 49ers, key to victory, I'm going to say that they need Christian McCaffrey to have a strong running performance on the ground.
Shut down the run.
And for their D-line to get Sam Darnold uncomfortable, I'm not saying that they have to have a ton of sacks or forced turnovers, but they need to get pressures on Darnold, make him feel uncomfortable. For the Seahawks, their key to victory, their defense needs to throttle up and bottle up Christian McCaffrey once again, leaving Brock Purdy to fend for nothing. No Kittle. If they force Purdy to beat him with his arm and arm alone, I think they will win this game. So we have 4 fantastic games in 2 days. The AFC and NFC championships are on the line. We will be back with you in a week to preview those AFC and NFC championship games. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. This is the best time of the year, tuning into every elimination game where it's win or go home. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and drop your divisional round takes in the comments. Appreciate you all for watching. We will see you in the aftermath.